when my son first came home from college, I started dreaming about him getting married. He was my first. Every mother knows what that's like. When your kids get to that age, you want to see them get married, have your grandchildren. I told my son when he came home, let me find a nice girl for you. What do you think? He told me, it's a waste of time, Mom. I don't have a job. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. He thought he had nothing to offer. My son. My brother and his new wife came to visit for a few days. And the day before they left, I took him and my younger children to visit an old family friend who was suffering with cancer. Doctor said he didn't have much time left. So I told my son, we're going to visit your Uncle Zubair. I left your dinner on the table. Just eat something before you go out. So the next morning, my son was not home. And I thought, oh, Lord, what am I going to tell my new sister-in-law? What is she going to think? Why did he have to do this today? So my kids all slept late and missed their bus. My son was still not home. And I just couldn't focus. And I just told the kids, just get in the car. I don't know what came over me, but with my son still not being home after being out all night, and my children oversleeping, and my brother and new sister-in-law getting ready to leave, La ilaha illallah. Somehow I got the kids to school and came back home, still not focused. And about 10 a.m., as soon as I turned the corner onto my street, my heart just stopped. There was a police car parked right in front of my house. You know what was my first thought? Oh, God, it was my son. Had he hurt someone? Was he in trouble? Why were they here? So I jumped out of my car, and when I went to knock on the door, my brother came and opened it, but he held me before he let me go in. And he said, sister, whatever they tell you, whatever happens, pray 2 rakats. You have to accept it. You must be patient. Saiful, just let me inside. Where is my son? And I walk in, and there's my sister-in-law, my niece, and 2 police officers sitting in my living room. My husband was still at work. They asked me to have a seat. I would not. And then they asked, are you Shahriar's mother? Yes. Yes, I'm his mother. Where is he? Did he hurt someone? And they looked at each other. They were so soft-spoken, so well-mannered. And the older officer said, ma'am, your son is in the hospital. He's in the hospital. He had to wait before one of the parents to come home before he could say anything. Well, is he all right? And then they looked at me with those soft eyes. And then the older officer, he said, no, ma'am. I'm sorry. And then he looked down. He didn't make it. He didn't make it. I prayed 2 rakats. And I can't remember that entire month that followed very well. It was the month the lychee tree branches hung heavy with fruit for the first and last time. My daughter told me there were so many guests, hundreds and hundreds of people. There wasn't a day that went by that our house wasn't overflowing with people. There wasn't a day that went by that there wasn't a feast. There was that moment when she came home after her father's friend had picked her up from school. She came in, she said, "Where's my mother?" No one had the nerve to tell her. But yet, 100 eyes followed her as she looked for me. And when she came into the women's room, she found me. The mother of her brothers and sisters was sitting on the couch, surrounded by women, sitting quietly. She came over to me and fell to her knees. It must have been a strange thing. She said I smiled at her and said, "Today is such a good day." "Mom, didn't you hear the good news?" "Mom, today is your brother's wedding day." I can't remember what happened that entire month. But by the end, all the lychee fruit were gone. I've always told my children, never let a guest leave without having eaten something. That day, I told them, God has laid out a feast for your brother's wedding. At some point, a young blonde woman came in and asked to meet the mother of the house. She walked right through the men's room and came to the women's room. Her eyes were filled with tears. And she hugged me. "I know what it's like, sweetheart. I know. I lost my son too. We're like sisters, you know?" I can't remember who came or anything. I just know there were hundreds and hundreds of guests. So many people, the men had to be sent to the mosque, and there was so much food. Much of it was sent to the mosque with the men. I was told there wasn't a single person who came to visit who did not eat. You know how a bird just swoops down and picks up food off the ground? My son was like that. No sooner was he on the ground, those birds just plucked him up. And yet, no one has ever seen a wedding feast like his was.